UX, UI, UX/UI, product design, interaction design, visual designs, UX gurus, UX strategists, UX researchers, design system specialists. All the job titles and responsibilities exist in the design community today, but which one will be good for you? What should experience design mean to you? I worked as an experienced designer and I led project and managed design teams, and until today I still get the confusion of what experience design means. The idea of experience design not really clear or defined, and you can't really blame them with all these titles and responsibilities that change over time, and new titles and responsibilities comes out every year. Every company or team you work with, they will have different design process, an idea of how to structure the team and how design should work with product and tech. Experience design has been boxed in as designing for mobile and desktop screens. Don't get me wrong, but I do think this ambiguity and confusion is a very good thing for design, but we'll save that for later.
I think if for the word generalist thrown out a lot, and I guess I would probably be a generalist technically because I've done so many things. But when I sit down and have an interview with a company, I usually try to tell them that I have a visual background of like 15 years. And then I have about 5 years of actual hands-on product design, because it's a new term and that involved new skills like project management and user testing and research and stuff like that. That goes beyond what I was doing with web design. And so when I come into a company, I have to really be careful about these definitions, because everybody has a different idea based on their experience or their language that they learned or people they interacted with. And so knowing yourself is really important when you come in there and explaining that to them so that we're all on the same page. There's nothing worse than like false expectations and mismatched roles and disappointments. So I think that's really key, is like knowing what you're good at or what you like to do and where your heart is. And no, I want to offer encouragement to people that if they are feeling stuck, that they don't have to be. Like, there's so many areas in product design or product experience or whatever word you want to use. And they are different, I should say, but and those definitions are becoming more solidified as time goes on. But I think there's so much to do. There's so much opportunity to, if you're not happy in one area, to evolve and grow in another. And I think that's what's wonderful about being a designer. You don't have to just be stuck in one thing or one box. You can take a class, you can try a new job and see how it sticks and grow. So.
I mentioned kind of like my certification and specialties as well with NNG, and I've really bought into, you know, a lot of the stuff that have come out of that institution, especially something that Don Norman said, which led to his book that he wrote, I think around 1990. I think 1988 was the first time when the industry came across the word experience design. That was the first time it ever existed. But then Don Norman put it in the Design of Everyday Things, his book. So you know, understanding kind of like, you know, that for me as a foundation really led me to understand it in my own way, that actually experienced design is just people really getting their heads together to try and make a product better based on how we feel about it. So it says, if I can feel good about using something, that's an experience I've had. And I was saying to somebody, you know, a bit earlier today in a conversation that I had, and I said to them, imagine if you're in a lift, you just met a friend and you hadn't seen them in a long time, and you had about 10 seconds before you got off at the following floor where you work to tell them what you did for a living. What would you say? And they're like, oh, I don't know what I'll say. So when we kind of like think about it like that, it really forces us to kind of like switch that paradigm just a little bit. Do we know what we do? And if we do, then we would know it well enough to explain it to someone else. So yeah, it's just about, you know, creating or building upon something that will help someone to enjoy using whatever it is they've got their hands on. Because it is the everyday things that we use. You know, the cup that you just drank out of, the toothbrush I used this morning when I woke up, and all of those things. You know, the alarm clock that you smash with reckless abandon and frustration because you're too tired, and it wakes you up in the morning because you have to get to work. All of those things for me is just experiences we have, and looking at them in a slightly different way for me personally just gives me a nice outlook on life, appreciation for nature, things such as biomimicry, that kind of stuff really kind of like inspires me.
Well, I mean, so I know the official term is like, you know, experience design or user experience design, or a lot of people use that term. I even have it in my description of my bio on LinkedIn. But it's kind of one of those weird things where we say that we do experience design or user experience design or UI design, product design, all those things you mentioned. But at the end of the day, like, experiences are something that are unique to each individual. This is something that I learned from one of my favorite design professors, design and strategy professors, where he basically was like, look, like, you can't control the experience that happens in somebody's head, but you can create, you know, products or services and things that provoke experiences, and you can guide them through their experiences through the things that we make. There's a lot of biases when people make stuff, right? They, you know, based on your context, your background, where you come from, you perceive the world in a certain way, and that's different than other people. Which is why diversity in, you know, in design and especially the product world is so important, is so that we create products that are inclusive. But to really answer your question, you know, experience design to me is, first of all, starting out with empathy for our fellow humans and understanding what outcomes that they're looking for in their life, whether that's an enterprise, you know, B2B product, or it's consumer product. So, you know, helping people achieve those outcomes. You know, it's not just trying to find problems and only focusing on the problems. It's also looking for a way to delight people, to make their lives easier, and just, you know, I think that's probably a good way to sum it up.
I think it's like being adopted by companies now. Like, you see large corporations having a VP of user experience or like VP of design, which is kind of exciting. I feel like in the next 5 to 10 years, it'll just be a standard practice. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. Any other industries or specific industries you would like to design for in the future?
I've been I think ever since I started off in like an emerging technology as like my first career, I think that would be like the industry I would like to pursue, kind of like robotic surgery using AI.
That's nice.
That is what's been on my radar or top of mind lately. It's challenging, but it kind of excites me at the same time, because it goes back to like designing the physical user experience along with that digital and connecting it. I think what I learned is kind of what's your value, or what is a priority of why you want to switch over to that career or a company, like what draws you to it. If it's specifically for that product, like, are you okay working with an amazing team, but the product isn't as exciting?
Yeah.
And care for yourself. Your mental being is way more important than that high salary or that high profile product that you're working on.
Yeah. Going back to why the ambiguity and confusion is actually a good thing to the design community. For many years, companies, and specifically tech companies, outsource design to agencies outside of the organization. When these tech companies realize the importance of design, they start hiring and growing design teams. They hire designers and grow design teams without understanding the creative process very well. The design process is not a fine line. It starts with ambiguity and chaos until it narrows down to a specific approach. Here comes the titles and the many roles to try to fit in the design process in a mold or a structure that already exists in corporate and tech, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually quite the opposite. It creates these new roles and challenges for experienced designers to try and fulfill this organizational needs. It evolved what could experienced design mean. No matter what your strength is, visual design, product design, interaction design, it opened possibilities for you to define what experience design should mean to you. And at the end of the day, we're all designers. Even if you're managing the team, you're still designing the environment for your team to thrive, for every designer to be the best designer they could be. So stop thinking of experience design as designing for a specific screen and start defining what experience design should mean to you. Thank you.